Let's basically just get into who I am. I'm Brock Boyts. I'm a freelance character animator and motion graphic artist in Los Angeles. So people know me as Broccoli in LA when I do freelance. It's kind of like a nice little shtick to get people to remember my name. And how many of you, this is your first NAB? First NAB. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, it's my first NAB as well. This is also my first time presenting, so I'm super excited about talking about things that excite me. So going from there, if you guys, after watching all of this stuff, you want to see more of my work, kind of see what I do, you can go to my motion graphics website. That's broccoli.com. I forgot my business cards. I'm guilty, so please write this down or take a little screen capture. My advanced character animation portfolio is at brockboyts.com. Feel free to check that out as well. And also, I'll show this one more time at the end, but you guys can contact me at brock@broccoli.com for any questions about what I show you, or just questions in general about the software. And of course, my Twitter at brockboyts. Moving forward, just want to take a huge big thank you to Maxon for giving me the opportunity to speak, and for making a software that isn't only fun to make my creations, but it's a software that I can make a living with and provide for my family. So I'm super blessed for that. So thank you, Maxon, for this opportunity. And I'm just going to jump right in and show you guys my demo reel. So check it out. I hope you enjoy. Thank you. Actually, I just want to give a huge thank you to all the studios, all the clients, and all the collaborators I've worked with over the past 3 years to create this reel. So thank you guys so much. So let me just kind of share with you my background with Cinema 4D. I worked at America's Most Wanted in Washington, D.C. for about 7 years. And the first 6 years was primarily After Effects, so a lot of 2D animation. And my director kept noticing that I was trying to make 3D environments with like flat objects, like buildings, and you name it. And I wanted so bad to learn 3D. So a new art director came in at that time and brought Cinema 4D knowledge with him. And he showed me a couple things, and every time I had a question, he would answer it. And by the end of like 2 or 3 weeks, I created my first fully 3D graphic, and I was hooked. I was totally into it. It helped kind of bridge that gap where I was trying to learn some other 3D software, but the learning curve was so steep. It's possible, but it's just really steep to start making I wanted to make the full production, not just like a 3D object and be like, awesome. I wanted to do lighting, rendering, texturing, you name it. Well, Cinema 4D kind of helped make that possible to bridge that gap. So after about 7 years, my wife and I decided to move to LA, and for the past 3 years, I've been doing freelance motion graphics. Last week, I graduated from Animation Mentor. It's an online character animation school. And so recently, I'm starting to incorporate more 3D character animation into my freelance work. So I'm really excited about that. Today, in this presentation, I'm going to be focusing on 2 projects that I did from beginning to end, all on my own, really tight deadline, really tight budget. Who's heard tight deadline, tight budget before? Yeah, so it's going to sound like a broken record, but it's really true because there's so many companies wanting to start up. They have visions and passions about their project, and so I I get addicted to that. I don't want to be a part of that. So I find myself working in tight deadlines and tight budgets quite a lot. So hopefully today, the stuff I show you guys kind of shows you how I not only Cinema 4D helps me make my work, but how do I approach my work so that I don't put myself into a corner and it's a lot harder than it really needs to be. So how many of you have never touched Cinema 4D before? Okay. Benjamin. Anybody else? Okay. So we got a couple people, and of course we have Cinema 4D Live. Guys, welcome. You're not here in person, but you're here in our hearts. Well, how many of you have been using Cinema 4D, kind of getting the hang of it, like it, want to kind of go a little farther? Intermediate. Okay, cool. That's excellent. Okay, how many advanced users? Been using it for a while. You make a living. This is going to be like, oh, this guy. Oh, it's dragging on. Well, I was kind of hoping for all three categories. The reason why, I'm going to be showing you guys how to do a full production with nothing advanced. Everything's going to be used with the most simple tools in the Cinema 4D menu. I'm talking about parametric shapes, which are the pre-made shapes, splines, spline wraps, cloners, that's it. Nothing too crazy. It's going to be really cool. Hope you guys like that. And when I use Cinema 4D, I consider it my multi-tool. And there's really only a way to make that clear. So let me kind of show you what that means to me. Let me find my folder. There it is. It's kind of like this guy. You know, we know this is, right? MacGyver. And MacGyver can make anything with a paperclip. So a client comes to me and says, hey, Brock, tight deadline, tight budget, you know, what do you do? How do you do it? And I say, well, you know, I know this software called Cinema 4D. And that's how I picture my clients seeing me. I come in the room with Cinema 4D, and they're like, oh, my gosh. So it's a really fun time to use Cinema 4D in our industry. And, you know, it's funny because I think about MacGyver and what he could possibly do with Cinema 4D. It'd be crazy. Anyways, I digress. Let's move on to our first demo. And what I want to do first is just kind of show you guys the full final product. And then I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about it as it's playing. The first 30 seconds is what I did. After that's gameplay footage. This is for a small video game company called Hashbang Games. And their game is called Gravy. Short for gravity. So just watch it. I'm going to have to turn down the audio at a certain point, and I'll describe more as we're watching it. Here we go. So this is the gameplay footage of Gravy. We have the hero named Gravy, and he uses gravity to propel himself through the obstacle course. Well, the guys at the studio said, well, we haven't shown anti-gravity in the demo. Can you create a little cinematic that will show users what they're in for? So I created anti-gravity, created that little trailer for the audience to kind of be like, oh, these guys are kind of interesting. So that was kind of the beginning of the process. And so I have some behind-the-scenes making of for this, so you guys can kind of get an idea of the way I thought I was going to approach this. The first thing I did is I approached Hashbang Games and I said, what are you guys picturing? So they showed me their storyboards. They want to see their logo first. They want to see that there's this laboratory experimenting on these little metal orbs that create gravity, and then introduce the antagonists. So that was cool. That's all I had to go off of. And I was like, okay, well, do you guys have any ideas for the character? So they came to me with a preliminary, rough version of the character, like, this is kind of what we're thinking. Can you please elevate that? So I went through and I did my first version of what I thought would be really cool for these characters, Anti-Gravy and Gravy. And they're like, no, Brock, they got to be a little more organic. So I went back through, and to kind of explain how I made this is a sphere. That is a sphere. These are little pyramid or triangles, toruses. I can't remember. They're awesome. They're cones. So anywho, there's no modeling on these at all. None of this is modeling. You don't need to. This is all just a metal ball with using alpha channel and putting two textures on top of each other. And that allows me to have a lot of speed when I render and I do all my effects. I'm always looking for the quickest and easiest way to move forward. And let's go a little farther. So I show them the characters. They're like, yes, awesome. Can you show us the whole thing now? I'm like, I have like 12 days to do this whole thing. So I wanted to, before I got any farther, I wanted to make sure I set myself up for success. I like to work smarter, not harder. I like to have a lot of fun. So I love Cinema 4D for one very specific reason more than all the other ones, is I can create pre-visualizations very, very fast. Easy shapes, camera, cuts, all I need to do really quick. I show this to them, and they're like, yeah, this is cool. We really like it. Why is it gray? I'm like, oh, it's just a pre-visualization. It's just a rough. It's an animatic. Once they approved this, which took a couple revisions here and there, I did this in about a day. And once they approved it, it was golden. They're like, move forward, move forward. So it was time for me to do character animation, which I want to be something that I spend a lot of time on. I want a lot of detail. So I love to do character animation based off of real-life video reference. So I like to sit there in my room all by myself and shoot really, really weird, goofy videos and then animate them. So I took this video, and for you guys, I went ahead and overlapped it over the final result. So you can kind of see, I'm not just animating from scratch. I'm animating from something that's real. And that makes it a lot easier, but it also makes you, the viewer, watch these guys, and they feel like they're alive. They have some moments that feel normal to us. So that's my goal here, is to capture real-life dilation of the eyes, eye darts, timing, that type of thing. So there we go. From there, and this is going to be another little theme of my presentation, is work smarter, not harder. So how many of you have been working on a scene in Cinema 4D and you're trying to like pan around an object or model it or do something like that? How many of you had the full scene open and you're working on one object in that scene and you have all the other stuff there, right? All of us. I mean, it's sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But this scene started getting really heavy. So why am I going to sit there and like keyframe my light, hit render? Okay, it's kind of bright, it's kind of not. No. I copy my light, I throw it in its own scene, get 3 planes, and I just get the timing down. I do this for everything in my productions. I work on one thing at a time, and I focus, and it's so much fast. I did this in a couple minutes. I loved it. So what I did, I took this result, I copied and pasted it right back into my file. Timing's all there. It's the exact same object, and now I get to see, this is a low-res render. I want to show this to my client. This is kind of what I'm thinking. It's casting all my shadows. Easy. Got it done. They loved it. They thought that was really cool, and that I did it so fast. Another one is the energy shield that goes around Gravi and anti-Gravi. Gravi has a blue one. It projects him. It's a gravity field that he can throw himself with. So this is a sphere with 2 noises that animate separately. Really simple. It's inside of Cinema 4D. I took those noise channels and I put them in the alpha. I took those noise channels and I put them in the reflection. And I gave it this nice reflective orb that you can see through and see your character in the middle. So I worked on that all by itself. When I was done, copy, paste. Attach it to the character, scale it up whenever I want it to activate. Really, 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 really easy stuff here. Let's get into the first demo. So I got really cocky for a little bit on this project. I was like, man, I'm going so fast. Like, yeah, I'm going to get this done early. And I kind of skipped this scene. I was like, I'll save simulation for the last part. I've done, how many of you have broken glass before or broken text or dynamics? Right, you just put on the tags, hit play, it works. Just maybe the gravity or friction. Well, that's what I was thinking. However, this threw me a little curve, literally. How do you get a character to perfectly draw a perfect circle on a concave surface? And how do you break concave glass? So I was like, oh, wait, I never thought about that before, because all the stuff I've done is flat. Glass is flat. Well, this is not flat. So this is what we're going to talk about real quick. I'm going to break it down. It's a little bit of a warm-up for us. Get me all warmed up. Show you guys some more cool stuff after this. So let's open this up. I'm going to show you the full scene. I like to do that first. I took out all the stuff we don't need to look at, right? I want to work smarter, not harder. So here we go. We have anti-gravity in this test tube. Give it a second. It'll all load up. Here we are. He reaches over. He cuts the glass. He pokes out the glass. He breaks through it, right? So we got a couple things happening. We have the slice, the poke, the break. Those are our three key elements. So let's just focus on what we need to. Let's work on just the glass cut. So we have our cylinder. There it is. You guys get where we're going. I don't need to show you everything. So there's the tube. Here's the slice. This stuff is basic, guys. I'm not going to show you anything that's like out of the ordinary, but I'm going to show you where I started. create a new document, and what I'm doing is I'm pasting in my spline. And I thought to myself, how can I do this within a couple hours? I created a circle spline. I took my tube, and I projected my spline onto it. And that caused the curve to curve. And I'll show you what I mean with that. Let me close this. So it's really important in this glass effect that it's not just a perfect circle, but a circle that wraps around the cylinder. If you want to project splines, you can go to Mesh Spline, Project. And what Project does, it takes your camera that you're inside of. Let's say you're in perspective, or you're in front, or you're inside, or you're on the side view. Whatever view you're in, and you hit that Project button, it'll throw that spline onto any surface. So let's say the surface is really jaggedy, you're on the top view, and there's your circle spline. You project it, it'll follow the contours of your landscape. So now you can animate little cars on the landscape. It's a really nice little trick. So this is how I got my curved spline. Well, now what can I do with that? I created a tiny little rectangle about the thickness of my glass. And I basically did, right here, under this menu, it's called a sweep. I extruded that little rectangle along that path. And so now I have my curved cut. The cool thing about this, the beautiful accident that I had, is in my project, all my cylinder shots had, in the reflection, had refraction. And who knows about blurry reflections and refractions eating up your render times, right? It's tough. It gets really tough. Well, I had a lot of that, and it distorted my characters a little bit. I didn't like that. The client didn't like that. So I got rid of refractions, and it was like, it looks so nice. This is separate geometry. I put refractions just on the slice. So if we go back and we look at the video, let me just pull that back. Here we go. You guys can see this nice little refraction. If you don't know what a refraction is, it's usually where things are distorted by the glass. Let me just make this. Where's my play? Play. Okay. Here. So let me get up close. You can see right here these little shiny things, these little speculars. You can see Gravi on the inside as he moves. That usually eats up a lot of render time, but this took a couple seconds. No big deal. So that was a nice little accident. So I got some of my refraction in there, which gave it some nice thickness. Once I did this, how did I pop it out? Because it's not a cut. It's just a ring. It's the illusion of a cut. So what I did was I took that same shape, that spline that I created earlier, and I basically did a bool. So let me show you what that looks like. Here it is. Got my main cylinder being cut by a little cookie cutter, right? So it just turns on in one frame, turn on that bool, and there's your little piece of glass that falls out, and it leaves behind the ring. So I'm doing a lot of cuts here. I'm doing a lot of smoke and mirrors. You have the glass that's whole, little ring, cuts to a glass being poked out, and then we cut to the glass that's being broken. This is where it gets interesting. Well, at least it did for me, because if I had a whole month to do something like this, I wouldn't even think about it. I had a couple hours. So it became a big problem, even though it was a small technique. So let's look at it real quick. Again, I have just what I need in here. So the first thing is the hole got cut out and pushed out, right? We know that. Well, I wanted a lot of control over my broken glass. I wanted it to look exactly like I want. I'm the artist. I don't want the simulation to do its own thing and I just have to sit there and enjoy it. I want to enjoy it, and I want my machine to do it for me. So I went in here with a spline. I hand drew exactly what I wanted. I extruded that. You know, I gave it a little thickness and then got rid of it. So I got rid of the back and I got rid of the side. So I have a front flat face. I came back into Cinema 4D after making that into this window, and I took the knife tool. And I just started slicing where I wanted it. I knew I wanted a spider crack. I wanted to start in the middle and break out because it's a spherical object breaking through a surface. It's going to start at the front and spread. I want control over my scene file. I don't want it doing it for me. Well, here's the problem. It's flat. My cylinder's not. So how do we get this glass to wrap around? Well, here's what I decided to do. First thing was, let's get my glass broken. So I took my tube. I did another bool, just like I did with that circle, except this time with my shape. There it is. We got it perfect. We got it exactly the way we want it. Remember that shape I made? There it is. It's right where I want it. Well, so here's the issue, is that it doesn't match and it needs to match. So all I did was drop in a wrap deformer. Guys, this is super easy stuff. It's right in here. These are all your beautiful, beautiful deformers. So wrap is right here. And I basically got it to wrap right where I need it to. You can do a spherical wrap, you can do a cylindrical wrap. So I did a cylindrical here. And then the next issue I had was, well, frankly, it's not thick enough. So how are we going to make this thicker? There's a nice option, a functionality in Cinema 4D. It's right here. It's called a cloth surface NURB, cloth NURB. And I threw all my little pieces of shards of glass underneath, and I gave them thickness. And it's really simple. There it is. So now not only do I have each individual piece of shard, which all I did was separate the mesh, I added on a dynamics tag, and I told it to affect all the children in my scene file. So all these little children underneath this parent are going to be affected by that collision tag. This is how I was able to do it. And then I cut one frame from one to another. So we have the slice, cut to the poke, cut to the break. To get that glass to fly out, I did not make my character dynamic, because it's going to eat up RAM. It's going to eat up your time, processing time. So what I do is I add what I call breakers. This is my fun little lingo I do for myself. I add a giant circle, or a sphere, to his body. You'll see it here in a second. And I had it this big so that I made sure every piece of glass got knocked out. I didn't want anything shaking or jittering. I wanted it all out of there. I knew that already. So here we go. It goes through and it breaks it and everything flies out. And that's how I did that section. But we're not done. No, sir. How do we get Gravi's spike, his left arm, to follow the contour of that curved concave glass? How do we do that? Well, I thought about what in real life does this. Well, Earth and the moon. And that moon rotates around our Earth a very specific way. So that anchor point is where? It's probably near the center of our core. So that's what I did. I took a null object and I threw it at the center of anti-gravity's body. And this is a child of that null object. So wherever I move it, it'll always float on the surface of the body. And that's okay, because this is a fictional character. It doesn't need to have like joints and all that. Not this guy. You know, and this is a tight deadline, tight budget. The client was like, it's fine, it's cool. So how did I get it to match that perfect cut? Well, I took that same hole that I created, that same spline, and I used it as a path for a target. And so I'll just keep it highlighted, and you'll see it travel. There it travels, that little target. I told this null object's z-axis point to always point at that null object. And that's it. I went into my target, I added a align to path, and I just animate it. And it just stays pointed at all times. And then the next step was, how do I get that spike to perfectly touch the surface of the glass? All I do is I just grow the height of it, and that's it. So you guys kind of get it. It's super basic techniques, all added together to create exactly what I want. Let's watch it one more time. There it is, one more time. Short. That's it. All right, let's move on to a new project. This one has a special place in my heart. So I got a call from my dad, and he said, "Hey son," he goes, "Hey son, I know that you are about to start attending Animation Mentor." This is 2 years ago. "And I know you have tuition costs." Well, I just got out of a meeting and I heard about the Union Pacific Railway is holding a 150-year celebration of their new ad video remake. So they have a video from the 1970s, and they're holding a competition for anyone to participate and recreate their version of their 1970s ad. And there's a cash prize, enough to pay for my Animation Mentor schooling. And Nellie and I, my wife and I, are like, it might be risky, because I could be practicing drawing and getting ready for the school, but we looked at the contest rules and we thought, okay, if we can do this in 3 weeks, a 1-minute commercial music video for Union Pacific Railway and win, my schooling will be paid for. So let me just see. Yeah, let's show you the original ad. So what we had to do was take the original ad from 1970, and the only thing we're required to use from this video is the lyrics. Style of music, style of visuals, we can do whatever we want. Stop motion, footage, doesn't matter. So this is the original ad just for fun. Hope you guys like it.
We're a great big rolling railroad. Hear that diesel engine's power. We're 1,000 wheels of freight train doing 90
miles an hour.
from the Great Plains of Nebraska on to Vegas
and LA,
where the Union Pacific can be got the right of way.
from the green fields
Of the prairies to the
blue Pacific shore,
we'll deliver your great cargo and come rolling home for more. Where a million
miles of history,
are shining in the sun,
we're the Union Pacific.
and our story's just begun.
We're the Union Pacific Railroad people. We can handle it.
All right. Yeah, I didn't make that. But it's really cute. And Nellie and I watched it. My wife and I watched this. We're like, we can't lose that. We got to keep that. So Nellie and I tag team. My wife and I tag team. She took care of all the music and the character design, and I did all the building of the objects and everything like that. So let me show you Nellie's design. These characters are based off of the original Union Pacific Railway characters. So Nellie went through and sketched them out for me, and my goal was to model them and do it all very quickly. So she also sketched for me, I call them snow globes. So we have, right here, we have Hollywood, LA, and then we have Las Vegas. They're both mentioned in the commercial. So we wanted to have these little moments that we knew. You know, and so this was my ultimate goal, was this. How many of you played with wooden blocks? How many of you loved playing with wooden blocks? Okay, don't lie. Okay. I wanted to do this in 3D. I wanted to find the quickest, easiest way to build this entire project with those. And I didn't have to model, I didn't have to rig, I didn't have to do UV mapping. I just throw on a tileable wood texture with a bump on cubes, squares, cylinders, you name it. So I knew I wanted these guys in there. I loved the idea of seeing the textures, and I thought this was a really cool art piece, and it was inspiring. So I went through and I looked for some more imagery to inspire me. We got rolling hills and windmills and snow globes. And all these things came into effect. I started thinking about, how am I going to do this in Cinema 4D? I want to use their old train. I want to have a tilt camera effect to give that miniature effect so it feels like toys. And I want to have a really cool toy horn on the train. And I love this cart here. So I just went through quickly, showed Nellie these guys. And Nellie and I both remember playing with these. And so it was very nostalgic for us. And I wanted that painted face look. So all these things together started to scare me because it's a lot of detail, but even though it's simple, there's just so much. So the first thing I did was a previs. I went in, I did all my camera work, I did all my character placement, I made sure I knew what my script was, I timed it out to the music, so I knew exactly where we were going to go with this. All I have to do after I get this approved, I'm the client, I get to approve it, which is awesome. I like my own stuff, so it's really easy, dream come true. And so we don't need to watch the whole thing. You guys get the idea. We're going to watch the final here in just a second. And just kind of moving forward, show you guys some more little stuff here. I wanted to make sure that this ad had a couple things in place. One was the environment. And the reason why is every scene had it. So I have grass, I have water, and I have sky. My grass is, there's a tool in Cinema 4D called Landscape. It's pretty cool. A lot of you know this stuff. I know. It's right here. And you can create instant landscape. You can go in there, you can adjust the valleys, you can adjust the hills. That was just a starting point for me. I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew I wanted the hills to roll a certain way at a certain point. So I made sure when I was making each scene had a unique landscape. The texture is grass, picture of grass, make it tileable. On top of it are vertical and horizontal tileable lines as layers in Cinema 4D. And because it's all tileable, it goes on forever and ever. Just drop it on, done. Water, it's actually a recycled material I used for a toothbrush. It's the metal flake paint you'd see on a car. So I was trying to figure out how to do that, so I kind of made my own. And I just added a Fresnel. For those that don't know, in Cinema 4D, a Fresnel allows the texture to be calculated. On the edges, the farmost edges can be one color, and the innermost edges can be another, giving that nice cap feel on the water. So this is just a quick test. I like to take things out of the file, and I like to do it all by itself, just to make sure it's exactly the way I want it. This is just a Photoshop file, and it's just curved in the background. That's all that is. So that was cool. Went through, modeled, textured, got everything set up. I went through and did another animatic, drag and drop into that one I made. And this is just roughly going through it. Okay? Let's see this in all of its glory, all finished and done.
Do 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 do
rolling railroad, hear the diesel engines pound, where 1,000 wheels of freight train doing 90 miles an hour. From the Great Plains of Nebraska on to Vegas and LA, we're the Union Pacific, and we've got the right of way. Do 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 do. From the green fields of the prairies to the blue Pacific shores, we deliver your great cargo and come rolling on for more. Where 1,000,000 miles of history is shining in the sun. We're the Union Pacific, and our story's just begun.
There it is. So we submitted this, and we got a phone call from Union Pacific headquarters, and they said they were going to fly us out to Omaha with the other top 2 contestants. So we're in the top 3. We get there, they put us up on stage, and there's celebrity judges, and it's like the real deal. And we're nervous. We're like, what's going on? And we won. We won the grand prize, the cash prize, which was really cool. They actually brought out this huge big check and gave it to us, and we're like, what? It's in our living room. We don't know where to put it. It's huge. It was such a fun project. I mean, I got to literally just keep creating on top of creating because I try to keep things very, very simple. Let me show you what I mean by that. Let's look at one scene here. It's going to be really heavy because I have everything in it. I'm going to close it and open up what I use to work with. Actually, we're not. It's too long. We're not going to do that. I guess we have to now. But the scene I'm going to show you guys while that's loading is this guy, the farmer and the cows. I love this guy. They're really appealing.
On the Great Plains of Nebraska. On the Great Plains.
That'll get annoying. No offense, baby. No offense. I'm going to show you guys the cows and the character. There's no rig at all. And all the shapes are very basic. The only thing I modeled in this entire piece are the legs of the cows and the legs of the horse. That's it. Everything else is done with parametric shapes and lathe nerves, splines that are wrapped. And so let's get in there. Hopefully that scene is done taking its time. It's got a lot of stuff in there. It's not, we're not doing that. So let's close that. Like I said, I'm going to keep enforcing you guys. Don't worry about everything coming together at the end. Make your life, make your workflow easy. This is all I need to look at. I'm an animator. So let's just focus on the cow on the right. Let's turn these other guys off. How did I animate this cute little guy? Let's look at him. He's cute, right? So let's turn on what I use. I use deformers, cow on the right. Let's just focus on the head. How did I do the head? So there you go. I used a bend deformer. Yes, I did. Bend deformer. Oh, yeah. So once I establish my bend, because he's going to be eating grass, all I have to do is pivot. And I know that cows, they just sit there and eat grass, and they wag their tail. It's like, that's all I really need to do to pull this effect off. So something really fun is I put little grass at the end of his mouth, and I put a bulge deformer on it. I don't need to put bones in here and rig it and bend it, and I don't need to put hair deformation or hair simulation. I just have a simple bulge deformer. All your deformers are right here. They are really, really easy at doing whatever you need to do as far as bending and distorting mesh. The eyeballs, this is fun. I use symmetry tags all the time on creatures and humans because we're very symmetrical. So that's all I animated was this. And then I just threw this guy on. It's done. Both eyes are blinking. And for the tail, I just copied that deformer from the head. Threw it on there. Let me turn this on. Tail, there he is. Unhide it. And all I did was animate a little wag. So that's that cow. Let's show you the other cow. Really quick. I'm going to go a little faster, guys. We got 10 minutes. How did I get this cow to chew? Well, cows do two things. The food goes from the cheek to the teeth, cheek to the teeth, in and out, in and out. And then it's rotational, right? We all have seen a cow. Really silly. So I put what's called an FFD deformer on there. There it is. It's underneath deformers. It's called FFD. What it is, it's a little box you put around your polygons, and you play around with its vertices. Whatever you do to those vertices, it'll affect the mesh underneath. So I have the middle vertice going in and out to create the chew, and then I take the whole FFD and I do that. So gives us the chewing of the food. Really easy, no crazy rig, nothing like that. Same with the farmer. I gave him 2 deformers, so let's zoom in on this guy. I got a little camera already set up for us. Work smarter, not harder. And he just has a position and a rotation. He has a bend deformer for weight shifting, and he has a twist deformer. Where are you at? There you are. For the spine. And I know that he's going to turn around and lead with his head. And so there we go. Mustache. All I did was create 2 extruded NURBs, and they just rotate. And he goes, good cow. Good cow. And that's that scene. Let's look at it one more time, now that you guys have seen it. Adding the mustache was just bonus because I had time.
On the Great Plains of Nebraska. On the Great Plains of Nebraska.
All right, there it is. And I'm going to show you guys really quickly. I'm just going to talk about it. We're actually not going to demo it so I can get into one more scene file. And that's this guy here. This scene here uses spline wraps, a lot of them. So we're going to focus on the roller coaster. Let me see half size here. Let me turn down the volume. Okay, we're just going to talk about it because we have limited time. I create the path of my roller coaster. So you can see the roller coaster. And actually, we're just going to do this really quick because I like showing it. I can't not show it, guys. It's opening soon. There he is. Okay. All I do is with a spline is create my path. So let's turn this off. There he is. Turn this back on. Let's turn off the spline wrap. This is all I created. I took 3 circles, zoom in on them. Wow, it's new. Zoom in on them, turn off extrude. There they are. It's a low poly for now. I extruded them for a very, very long distance. And then I take my little carts, and let's show those guys. Come to frame 1. It's 1 cart with a cloner, and all he does is shoot like a rocket from left to right. That's it. I make that one object by putting it as children to a parent. I take that and I deform it along this, giving a couple things. 1, it keeps the cart perfectly intact on the track. And 2, I can go in and I can adjust how the carts twist and turn along this thing. I can make it any type of roller coaster that I want. It's very flexible. You can adjust the size, scale, a lot of different things inside the spline wrap. I could do this probably 3 or 4 different ways, but this is the way I chose to do it. I did this for the entire Union Pacific Railway ad. I took a spline like this, projected it onto my surface, through my train, through my tracks, and through my telephone poles right along the side of that. Used a cloner for the telephone poles. Same thing with LA traffic. LA traffic. Sorry. I get really frustrated at LA traffic. I had to put it in there. LA traffic is just a spline, a cube being spline wrapped with a wooden texture, which is tileable, so it's endless. I duplicated that spline 3 times to create 3 lanes of traffic. I took a cloner and put a whole bunch of little colored cubes, and then I just tell that cloner, animate these cubes along those splines. 3 lanes of traffic, never ending. I'm done. I can copy paste, and I can put little mountains and give little tunnels and everything. So that's LA traffic. Goodbye, LA traffic. And okay, so let's get to it. We're running out of time. I want you guys to get a little interactive here. I want you to pick one object that you want to see me explain how I made it. There's a lot of assets here. Let me show you the full gamut of assets. Give it a second. There's a lot. Ooh, okay. So we have the little people that you saw right there. And that's how much more stuff I had to make in 3 weeks. Render, light, texture, you name it. So we have Vegas, we have LA, and there's some copyright issues in here, so I wasn't allowed to use them. And we have miscellaneous objects, we have characters, we have environments. Let's just go through the different cameras here. We got plants, we got tracks, whole bunch of stuff. It gets crazy. So do you guys see anything that you want to see made? Something quick? We only got 5 minutes left. Anything? I'll just open it up and show you real quick. What would you say? Vegas sign? Ah, it's a good one. And you said Lincoln. That's a little easier. So I'm only going to be able to do this quickly for you guys. So what am I going to do? I'm going to copy, create a new document. I'm going to paste it. Paths are fine with the textures. Doesn't really matter right now. And there it is. This is our Vegas sign. So let's open this puppy up. Let's show you everything I used. Pretty simple, guys. Pretty simple. We have splines. We have text. We have cubes, we have circles, we have spline wrap. So let's just zoom in. I'm going to talk about it with you guys right here. This is the text object in Cinema 4D with an extrusion. We have a spline wrap, which basically I went in, I drew exactly what I wanted, took a rectangle, threw it around. All these have wood textures on them, mind you. Did a cloner with that same spline that I drew for all my little lights that go around. These are all just cylinders with a little bevel. We got text effects again. These are hand-drawn stars, extruded. We got a couple cubes. Done. Like it? Awesome. One more. Let's do one more. You said Abraham Lincoln. Of course you did, Benjamin. Of course you did. Let's find Lincoln real quick. Where are you, Lincoln? Oh, dear. There you are, Abraham. He's the man. Okay, the textures aren't connected. Sorry about that. I hit the wrong button. That's cool. You can. Oh, there it is. Okay, how did I make this guy? We have the hands are circles. We even have, I think I have a little animation on there. There it is. That's a wrap deformer, or bend deformer. So let's look at that in the attributes editor. And there it is. And then I have, of course, it's just a cube. I had to make it editable so that I could, I actually did texturing on it a little more because it had the bend deformer. We won't get into that because it's not necessary. But the body, this is all I do for the bodies. I just draw a little spline, and then I use what's called a lathe NAB. Right there. It's my little friend. The head is a sphere. The beard is a cylinder, spline wrapped. Well, bam. And all I do is go into my spline shape, into size, and I adjust the tapering with this editor down here. I can adjust the tapering of the edges so it thins out at the top to create nice connection with the hair at top. Of course, you got another cylinder. You got another cylinder right here, and that I think has a bulge deformer on it. Woo. That's it, guys. That's how I made my characters. Went through, made them all. The mountain. All right, so the tunnel, the mountain tunnel. So that would be in structure. I'm going to grab the tunnel. I'm going to copy, create a new document. I'm going to paste it. Really quick. Textures, you can keep them if you want. So let's zoom in on this with the O key. And here we go. How did I do that? Let's break it apart. Well, if you can see right away, everything I have is cubes and extruded splines. There's nothing fancy in here, no modeling. Let's do one at a time. Let me show you the entrance tunnels. All we have here is two tunnels. We'll just look at one of them. This guy here. We'll keep that. We'll turn these all off. So we have a cube, cube. They're all put together like little toy blocks. And then our favorite that we played with in our wooden toy set, that one. So once I got the entrances done, let's turn those off. Let's turn on the big guy. Turn off the bool. All I have is a couple extruded splines. So let's take the shapes apart. Here we go. This is based off that piece of art that I showed you guys earlier, that sculpture. I really, really liked it. So I wanted to get it in there. Thought it was a really neat piece of work. So there we go. All I did was take these splines and I extruded them. Boom, 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 boom. And then this is a loft NAB. I did this so I had a little more control over the bevel on the edges. As you can see here, I wanted a little more control over that. And then I took another shape. Let me turn this off. This guy. This is basically an extruded upside down letter U. And I took these guys, I put them all together, and I created a bool. So if I move that bool through here, there you go. That's how I created my tunnel. Thank you, guys. That is a quick demo of some easy tools. Get in there, start playing around, start having a lot of fun with this stuff. Do we have more time? Do you want to do one more object? One more object. Let's do one more object. All right. Let's open it back up. Let's show them all. Let's turn them all on. All right. So they're going to turn on here. One more object. Eiffel Tower. That one's been picked so many times. People like that one. All right. That's a fun one. All right. Let's grab this guy. He's inside of Las Vegas. Eiffel Tower. There you are. Copy. New document. Paste. Textures. Whatever. Zoom in. Here we are. Let's open this guy up. We've got some symmetry going on, so I don't have to model as much. Work smarter, not harder. We have cubes, capsules, cylinders. So let's look at one at a time. Let's just grab one of the objects, hit the O key, zoom into it. I have a little deformer on that, a little taper. And what that taper does is allow me to control the shape of that cube. Let's go to another one. Another cube with a taper. Let's go to symmetry, turn off symmetry, turn it off again. I have two of them in there. Made one cube, symmetry, symmetry, done. Next one, go to this guy. Same thing. We have symmetry, symmetry, done. Next one. And all I'm doing is looking at a picture, going, how can I simplify my life? How can I have a lot of fun with this? Pretend they're toy blocks and I'm a kid again. Done. Okay, let's go to the other cubes. Let's zoom out a little bit. All right, we got a cube, 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 cube. You guys are getting this, right? We're good. We can keep going. They're just all cubes. All right, how are we looking? One more? Okay, thank you guys. You get the point.
We want to have time for some Q&A. So does anyone here have any questions?
What is a loft spline? Yeah, a loft nerve basically is, so let's say you have a circle and you throw it underneath a loft. This is the loft, right? So once you throw this underneath, it creates a polygon. Looks kind of funky. Don't worry about that. Cinema 4D can make funky things look awesome easily. You don't have to ever worry about your polyflow here. And you take another circle. All I did was duplicate it, and now I can move it. But the cool thing about this is, if I duplicate this guy here at the end, and I move him in slightly, I take the guy on the end and I shrink him down, you're starting to have control over your bevel. Let me show you what that looks like. If I turn this off, you can see I have a lot of control now over where that math happens. And you can really get in there, and you can create custom shapes. In my reel, do you guys remember that giant cupcake? That's all built with lathe NURBS. Not one bit of modeling. It was all it was cogwheels to create the wrapper of the cupcake, and then just circles to create the shape of the cupcake. To create the frosting, it's a swirly spline with an extruded star. Easy stuff. Okay,
How
faster.
did you do the texture for the farmer?
For the what?
For the farmer.
For the farmer. Okay, cool. Actually, let me just show you the texture real quick. I'll go into my Cinema 4D project file. All my textures are here. I can actually show you just quickly, guys. I have my broccoli texture. I have my business texture, the Los Angeles texture. This would be the conductor. So let's look for that farmer since you asked specifically for him. There's the cow, of course, you know. Really simple stuff. I went into Photoshop. Where are you, cow farmer? I need to learn my alphabet. There he is. I took that, I created a lathe NURB, so I created one spline, and I did a lathe NURB on it, what I showed you earlier. And then all I did was then just wrap the texture around with a cylindrical wrap.
Did you create the additional audio effects, or were they from the web, and what did you use to edit the audio?
The question was about the audio. So we have two different projects. For Gravi, I worked with the client because they had to purchase the audio. I didn't want to spend my own money for their project. So they worked with me, but I was able to add my own sound effects, or take their sound effects and do it myself the way I wanted it. And then for the Union Pacific, it's all my wife's voice. Projecting the spline. His question is in Gravi, when I projected that spline, you select your spline, and then you can go up to... And one thing to keep in mind, guys, when you're projecting splines, you do have to make them editable. I might be wrong about this. This might be a new feature, but in the older version I made this in, make sure you have enough vertice points for it to bend accordingly. You select your spline, you select your object, whatever it may be. Let's pull this back. I may not have enough subdivision on this guy, but I can maybe make him subdivided. And then you go to mesh, spline. Oh wait, I'm in the wrong view. There we go. Mesh, spline. And honestly, I might be able to show you this a little more in depth afterwards, so we can keep the questions going. Yeah, I did it wrong. Apply? Oh crap, wrong view. Okay, we'll show you the guys afterwards. I want to keep more questions going. Can you come see me right after this? And I don't want to take too much time figuring it out. Okay. Oh, there it went. I got it. Yay. I was in the wrong view. And all you do is you hit apply. It's in that bottom window. Once you activate the project, you select your spline, hit apply, and it's really easy. Yeah, I'll show you again. Cinema 4D's renderer. Yeah, I try to use minimal lights. It's a sunset scene, so you have your one main light. But I would take some other lights and add some little glints and highlights. Make sure there's no super dark shadows. Kept the shadows at, I think they were soft shadows or something. It was not too complex. I did. Ambient occlusion is really what sold this because everything's kind of fake. So the ambient occlusion is, for those who don't know, it basically calculates where the geometry gets close to itself. And in that crack, it adds a nice dark edge. And sometimes you can control that fall off and get a nice look to it. Mm-hmm. Yep, so I use ambient occlusion. Correct. He asked a question about textures. Are they out of the box? Are they handmade? A little bit of both. The grass was a combination of the two. The Luxor had a diamond pattern on it to give it the effect of windows. But a lot of it was just simple wood textures from a packet I already owned. And I just went in and brought them into Photoshop and I made them tileable. And I made the colored wood texture also the bump. So all I have to do is I had a library of 10 wood textures. Different colors, different shades, and I just went like that. threw them all over it. And made sure that they were nice scale. That's it.
Can you talk about your render settings for the project?
Sure. Wow. It's been a while. When I render, I'm trying my best to keep it not complicated. So I would create object buffers for the different objects, meaning in After Effects, when I go to composite this, I can adjust the levels of each object. So I had object buffers. For lights, I had 2 to 3 lights max. I had my main light and I had my fill lights. And that would give me a lot of control. The shadows, 1 shadow caster. I wanted to make sure that every scene had shadows going the same direction. And then for actual textures, they were, like I said, generated in Photoshop, some in Cinema 4D. The rendering, just straight up Cinema 4D rendering. I do a lot of compositing, so that really gave me an edge. So I made sure I had some chromatic aberrations on the edge of my screen, add some depth of field. To do the depth of field pass, I just turned on depth of field and made sure my camera's focal point is at the right place at the right time. I even animated that to make sure I could do some rack focus with the depth of field. So that's usually how I work. I keep it very simple.
Another question we've got here from our C40 Live users. How did you do the water?
Oh, yes. The water is a plane with high subdivision. I think it was around 80 or 100. And I only need it as big as I need it. There's no reason to create like an ocean. Once I create my plane with a high poly mesh, I then add a wind deformer to it. The wind deformer is right here, guys. Super easy. Where are you, Wind? You've been moved around on me. He's in here. Anybody see him? Wind. He's a flag. Where's the flag? Where's the flag? Oh, there it is. Okay. I use the wind deformer, and I use that to create my main wave, the big wave. And then I use 2 or 3 of them with tiny amplitude to create the little ripples within the big waves.
And how did you animate the faces?
The faces are all done by hand. I would go into After Effects. I would animate mass, and then all I do is create a square black and white image of the eyes and the mouths. And then I already knew what I wanted. I knew how long the scene was. So I could just take that texture, render it out as a TIFF sequence with an alpha, and I just do a frontal projection texture on the face. Done.
Can you talk about lighting and how much comp work you did in After Effects?
Absolutely. I am a big fan of every part of the production process. I think 3D is just as important as compositing. So I take special care planning out ahead of time, knowing that I want the focus for the audience to be on specific objects. So depth of field is really important to me when I go to composite. We all see depth of field without knowing it. So that for this was important because I kind of hinted at the tilt effect, which made things feel a little miniature. But I wanted it to feel kind of big too, so I made sure that when I went to go composite, that all my passes, my render passes, my ambient occlusion, my specular, my bump, everything was separated. Complete control over what I wanted.
Let's give Boyts a big round of applause.
Yay!